Hey John, this is Dennis here. I've just managed to get our video prompter set up going, so I decided instead of responding in text like I normally do, I would actually create a video for you to answer your question or your statement. So let me just read it again so we have context. Going to WhatsApp here. I guess I don't believe in save the world unless you tell me what kind of world. Sustainable really isn't enough. You could eliminate the human race entirely and have a sustainable world, but there would be no civilization or any intelligent beings to appreciate it. Well, thanks for that, John. To answer your question, I need to look at so many different aspects, but let's just try. Imagine living in a future world beyond this age of ignorance, in an age of truth, reason, and enlightenment, where people are empowered with the knowledge and wisdom of nature and the universe. A world of thinking, questioning, and wise humans who cannot be deceived or lied to. All people are open-minded and free-thinking, and are well informed about who they are, what they are, where they come from, and where they're going. People so well informed into the nuances and subtleties of life that they see the abstractions, deceit, and lies, and are empowered to make the best choices with this truth. A world where children are raised to know the natural wisdom of life, health, happiness, nature, and the universe. Living in an abundant world based on love, balance, and harmony. Now, John, to answer your questions, most Western humans have been indoctrinated to believe that if you live in nature, you're basically going back into the Dark Ages, which is one of the most incredibly ridiculous lies. Some of the most intelligent and well-informed people that I know on this planet grow permaculture gardens and live in abundant, healthy environments because of their knowledge of the wisdom of nature. Some of the sickest and most depressed and humans that I know live in cities. They have a very poor diet because everything that they're being fed is being produced by monoculture agriculture, which has been, the soil has been plowed and diminished and continuously worked to reduce the nutrients in the soil, so therefore the plants are unhealthy, therefore the humans aren't getting the nutrients, and therefore we have all of these modern day diseases that are just becoming more and more prolific as we use genetic engineering and herbicides and pesticides and monoculture agriculture, and we're getting less and less nutrition. We might be getting an abundance of food, but the food is not healthy. So what has actually gone wrong with humans is we have lost our relationships, our love of nature and of one another, and we've been turned against one another and against nature, and we see nature as being a place for ignorant people. And that is the biggest lie of our time. The truth is, people who really know about how to do permaculture and natural agriculture and how to reclaim deserts and semi-desert regions, and people with this incredible natural wisdom, and that wisdom which I take way, way further than anybody on this planet at the moment, empowered with that natural wisdom, you will know what the truth is. So the first thing is the lie about humans being separate from and above nature. Now that comes from biblical times when people wanted to take advantage of nature and centralize wealth and power in the hands of very few people. And the bigger their farms were, the more they could produce on the land in the shortest period of time, the greater the profits were for the ruling elites. So that began, in one sense, this centralization of wealth and power. But it came at a cost. Just to give you an idea, my parents tried to buy a lychee farm, call it something different in America, lychee farm in South Africa many years ago. And all it was just an abundance of lychees. Now, of course, this being a fruit, that led to many, many, many snakes. When we arrived at the farm, there were snakes literally everywhere we looked. You had to be very, very careful as you walked along not to step on a snake. In and around the house, it was just snakes everywhere. And the reason was because there was so much fruit, there were so many rats. And because there were so many rats in that environment, that led to there being a lot of snakes to control the rats, because nature has this natural balancing system of recreating balance. But man, because of this whole idea of getting more and more wealthy and centralization and creation of this monoculture agriculture, which is like one crop in a large area of land, creates imbalances. And the moment you create imbalances, nature's going to correct that imbalance. So what I'm saying is, if you had people living in sustainable permaculture design, which is land that has water security, food security, biodiversity, in other words, many, many different species of fruit and whatever bearing plants. You then have fruit and vegetables and many animals that symbiotically live together. It's all about relationships. It's about what the word love is more about relationships. It's about connecting and giving and receiving energy. Now, in complex ecosystems, there is less chance of there being an excessive overgrowth of rodents and therefore too many snakes and so on. So the first thing is people living in cities are extremely unhealthy, unhappy, depressed, overworked, stressed. All of the negative ailments that people are experiencing in cities in our days are the result of it being an unnatural setting. We are of nature and should be living in healthy relationships with nature, in nature. And of course, in a natural setting, you cannot have too many humans in one place because the sun shines on the earth and plants absorb that sunlight, and of course we eat the plants and we grow. But you can only grow a certain amount of plant life, and with the seasonal fruit, you cannot have excessive quantities or numbers of humans in a small area because you will eat yourself off the land and you will die. So that is why it is essential to spread out on the land. And it's a really good thing because the more spread out we are on the land, the more of these sustainable hubs and the more we nurture the soils and nurture the land and spread life across the planet. So not only is it really a healthy way to live, it is a way of ensuring that we have all of the biodiverse ecosystems that we need into the future. Then, because there is this biodiversity, you don't need the herbicides and the pesticides and all of the negative things that are produced by the Monsantos and all of the chemical companies that are producing all of these chemicals and producing genetically engineered corns and wheats, and all of these things are having a negative impact on our health and sustainability. Right now, there's this huge drive of people in power to monopolize every single resource on this planet. It's a system of taking. Pyramid schemes are designed as taking systems to take whatever we have and centralize the wealth and power, but without any thought for the perpetuation of life. And we depend for our existence on the natural ecosystems. Right now, the Amazon jungles are burning while they clear land for cattle farming and for soybean production, driven by Monsanto and these big corporations who are trying to make money and trying to convert the whole of Brazil, the whole of the Amazon basin, into beef production to make money. And of course, all of the soybeans are used to feed animals, mainly around the world. But this is all genetically engineered stuff. So it's increasing the power of Monsanto, and they're saying, oh, this is economic growth. It's not economic growth. What it is the destruction of the essential biodiversity that we need to sustain life on this planet. We should be protecting that region, and we should be taking those seeds and spreading them across the world to ensure that we have the perpetuation of these species of life instead of just burning them. We should be holding them in high regard and nurturing them and trying to spread that life across the world, and therefore ensuring we have a future. The other illusion is that empires are sustainable and they carry on into the future, and that we don't have to worry if we carry on within the empire. That is the biggest lie of all times, the second to the first one that was told. The problem with empires is they are not sustainable. They rise as pyramid schemes do. They take everything that there is, they're continuous growth systems, and eventually they cannot take any more and they collapse. Now, it's like playing a game of Monopoly. First of all, one man gets the advantage and he wins, and then you have all of this money and nobody wants to play anymore. The game is over. The money is just Monopoly money. It's not worth anything. The only thing that has true value is living systems and our planet and all of our natural ecosystems. That is true value. A tree has an incredible amount of energy which it's been capturing from the universe throughout its lifetime. Sequestering carbon, drawing up water, transpiration of water. A tree is this incredible living system which once a year goes and provides us with maybe avocados or oranges or whatever, but seasonally we get given gifts from the trees. Not all trees. Different trees have different things that they give. They're part of the whole chain of life. Some sequester a lot of nitrogen from the air, and of course they can be used to chop and drop to reintroduce nitrogen into the soil to encourage other plant life's growth. There's this incredible symbiosis, this connectivity of all of the natural ecosystem to ensure the perpetuation of life. Now, the other illusion is that we humans have this, we are parasites or we are the disease, and that we should get rid of all of us and then life will carry on into the future. Well, that's ridiculous. The only thing that's wrong with humanity is the lack of knowledge about nature. It's ignorance, which is fostered by our education system. It is this absolutely insane value and belief system, which comes from what I term the Judaic root belief system, JR, which is actually basically the original beliefs that led to the beliefs of Moses, which resulted in the Torah, and then resulted in most of these pyramid scheme religions after that. And that includes the Roman Catholic Church, the Protestants, the Nederduitse Gereformeerde Kerk, or the Church of England. They all belong to this network or this group of pyramid schemes which are plundering the world. And that is what results in empires, the centralization of wealth and power, the centralization in cities, the turning people into laborers for an abstract monetary wealth, when in actual fact we should all be part of life-sustaining ecosystems. Sustainability depends on us being part of the whole ecosystem. We only look after and spread seeds if we are part of the ecosystem. We only pee on the land providing nitrogen for plant life if we're on the land. We only poop on the land if we are on the land. We are, just like all animals, part of this natural ecosystem. But because we're part of nature doesn't mean that we have to be stupid and ignorant. It means we can be far more intelligent than what we are. We can live intelligent, natural lives. This whole idea that if you're not educated into the modern education system, that you are ignorant and you're going back to the dark ages, or you should be going and living in a cave, is absolutely ridiculously stupid. I think what is more stupid is having wars and running around killing one another and plundering and stealing from one another. That is ignorance. Our whole value and belief system of hatred and fear of scarcity and driving people into cities, and that is ignorance. The people in power constantly lie to us and deceive us. They create confusion by creating opposing opinions to the truth, to create uncertainty and confusion in the uninformed masses. As in global warming, where the scientific evidence is unquestionable, they create this appearance of occupying the moral upper ground, indoctrinating us to believe government is good. Lie. Democracy is good. Lie. Education is good. Lie. Money and corporations are good. Lie. Religions are good. Lie. Or we are the good people. We're fighting the good fight for God, king, and country. Lie. Or the other, they are a threat to us. They are terrorists. Lie. When we are invading their lands, we are the terrorists. They create abstract ideas and promote them as truth. They take marginal concepts and promote them as the only truth. Like survival of the fittest and competition are said to be the foundations of survival. This might be true to some small extent, but the greater truth is love and cooperation are the greatest forces for life and survival. In the human populations, thought, reason, and relationships are the greatest factors in survival and sustainability. Now, bearing in mind that we are expressions of life in the natural ecosystems, and we need the ecosystems and life to thrive and survive. And any harm done to nature and to those ecosystems is to harm ourselves. Pollute the air, lands, and water, and we pollute ourselves. What we do to our world, nature, and all others, we do to ourselves. Civilizations are not what they are portrayed to be. In George Orwell's book, 1984, he spoke of the ministry of truth being the place where truth is lie. The word civilization is obviously a paradox, a contradiction. Contrary to popular belief, it is contradictory and a false proposition. There is no such thing as a civilized civilization when referring to modern cities and pyramid schemes, way of life. A modern civilization requires extreme force, lies, untruth, and outright abuses to their own people and to nature and other people to maintain power and control over others. Consider the abuses to the people within the civilization. They are subjugated by a legal system. A law enforcement system enforces the laws, which are systems designed by the rich for the benefit of the rich. The civilians are subjected to fear of scarcity, hatred, indoctrination, domestication, insulation, and isolation, being kept spellbound in blind belief and ignorance, and terrified into patriotism. Remember 9/11, the terror that anybody speak out against those in power. Americans are indoctrinated to believe in specialization, individualism, consumerism, capitalism, exceptionalism, and materialism, all of which are unsustainable ways of thinking. Combined with these abstract values and beliefs are the abstract beliefs of the Abrahamic, Moses' religions, which contain the values and beliefs of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, supposedly written by Moses. They are pyramid schemes which are also untrue and unsustainable values and beliefs. People would not work for an oppressive system which is harming them and the world around them if they had a choice. This old paradigm is based on the imprisonment of the supporters' minds and bodies, stealing their energy and their lives and turning them into wage slaves. Think of the Matrix. This paradigm is imposed at enormous cost to all others and all of nature. It should be called uncivilization. The process of making people uncivilized, conditioned, civilized people, have been indoctrinated to believe civilized to mean that they are cordial, courteous, diplomatic, formal, polite, accommodating, affable, complacent, courteous, cultivated, genteel, gracious, mannerly, polished, politic, refined, suave, urbane, well-bred, well-mannered, cultured, educated, enlightened, humane, refined, sophisticated, advanced, urbane meaning civilized, affable, cosmopolitan, cultured, elegant, polished, refined, sophisticated, suave, well-bred, balanced, bland, civil, courteous, cultured, debonair, genteel, gracious, mannerly, metropolitan, obliging, poised, polite, smooth, and well-mannered. This is an elitist, arrogant, and ignorant point of view. They also believe that people living on the land to be ignorant, uneducated, unrefined. This is an ignorant and arrogant point of view. Every small group of people or tribes have their own culture, and to them they are well behaved and cultured. Their languages may be different, whatever may be different, but they are still cultured people. Living in a city does not make one's culture better than another. Civilizations, in the sense that we think of it, contrary to popular belief, are extremely uncivilized. Behind the scenes, they go to war, plunder, murder, rape, pillage, rob others of their land, and drive them into refugee camps only to create more cities and civilizations. These wars are conducted against the people of the world in many ways. We have conventional warfare, economic wars, nuclear war, aerial wars, drone wars, coups d'etats, manufactured revolutions, incited violence, civil unrest, civil wars, genocide, propaganda wars, media wars, religious infiltration. Through these and many more processes, those in power have subjugated whole populations of decentralized indigenous land-living people and dispossessed them of their land and of their basic human rights to land, food, and water. Then forced them to work on their stolen land for slave wages, to provide cheap food for the cities and profits for the ruling elites. I think of the Banana Wars and the United Fruit Company, which became Chiquita, and the American government and military oppression or suppression of the workers with force so they could keep the prices low and continue to pay the workers very poorly. This happened throughout the century and continues until today. I think of the avocado plantations in South America and the sugarcane farms and many other monoculture crops in South Africa and around the world. Sugarcane being grown in large wetlands, regions like Richards Bay, where I live now, and all over Florida. Wetlands are the nurseries of life, not places for sugarcane plantations. If we do not protect our nurseries of life, we do not sustain life. The A-grade production of these tropical and subtropical regions are mostly sent to major cities around the world, first world countries, while the local markets, third world countries, only receive the produce that can not be sold for higher prices in first world cities. The people working the land earn slave wages, where if they owned the land and it was their land, they would be very wealthy people. This is referred to as the golden age of wealth, when people actually live spread out on the land. Now that they live in cities, they do not have the wealth that they used to have when they lived on the land. They have to labor continuously to earn a salary or earn a daily wage or an hourly wage, and they are nowhere near as wealthy as they used to be. This dependence of cities on foreign imports turns them into dead zones. There's not enough food and water to sustain such densely populated areas if something goes wrong. The next problem is North America's specialist farming practices. This turns the whole continent into a dead zone as well. All it takes is one economic collapse, or an electromagnetic pulse, or too much radiation from the sun, to turn that whole region into a lifeless wasteland. You cannot survive on sugarcane alone, or wheat alone, not for too long. The strength of any ecosystem depends upon its biodiversity. The more diverse, the stronger the ecosystem's sustainability. I think of colonization by various empires. I think of American colonization of the world. Spreading good, world-saving democracy lie. Democracy is touted as being the greatest gift to the world, bringing freedom of speech and freedom of movement and whatever. That is one of the greatest lies, when all it is a spreading of the thought plague of empire and one world government. I think of the 34 dams that were planned for the Amazon basin, which will kill all life downstream and drive the people into dependence upon the private ownership of water and electricity, the businesses, the corporations, and the monopolization of all of the resources in the hands of a few, while the people are subjugated into wage slavery. I think of the chainsaws and modern mechanized methods of deforestation used to provide wood products for the cities. I think of the onslaught against nature and all of the indigenous people who live on the land, whose natural way of life ensured the perpetuation of life. I think of the military-industrial complex going to war to replace people's leaders with puppet leaders, to steal the wealth of nations for the benefit of a few at the expense of the masses. I think of the insidious spreading of religions through missionaries, converting the people of the world into unthinking believers. I think of religion's lies. We do this for love when they do it for the centralization of wealth and power. The "we are special" lie. The "there is only one man God in the sky" lie. The "we are the chosen ones" lie. The "we have dominion over nature" lie. The lies are endless, and yet they are the foundations on which our civilizations are built and stand. You cannot create truth from lies. Truth can only be a continuation of truth. Lies and justifications will always be just lies. If we begin with lies and build a lifestyle upon them, we can only be living a lie. Civilizations are built upon lies, so they can only be lies. Why do you think governments protect their secrets and their lives so vehemently, calling people who tell the truth traitors, charging them with high treason, and sentencing them to death for telling the truth? This is because if the truth were to out, the system of lies would fall like a house of cards. So let's start to build a lifestyle built upon truth, love, balance, and harmony. Let's build a way of life based on a responsible way of thinking and being. Answering your question more precisely, I think we need to transition from where we are now, from this age of fear, ignorance, and indoctrination, to an age of love, truth, and reason, to a sustainable, happy, healthy future that we all deserve to live in, free from slave labor, freely living on the land, freed from lies, freed from oppression, a decentralized population of the world with clear and honest communication between all people. In an age where our natural world is healthy, unpolluted, and thriving, where humans are happy, healthy, and thriving as well, living in sustainable teaching eco-villages spread out on the lands across the world, a world where we are regrowing the natural ecosystems and improving upon them to ensure our future survival, the survival of our children, and the survival of life into the future. A world where we have protected lands, wetlands, swamps, forests, jungles, oceans, reefs, to ensure the perpetuation of life. These things can be done on a political level. This is not a liberal thing. It is a survival thing. Instead of continuing on a destructive train of thought, infected by this thought plague, this paradigm of ignorance, which is exponentially accelerating us towards the cliff of extinction, instead of destroying, as we have done in the past, to get a new paradigm, let's try to recreate, to nurture, to protect, to grow a better future. Let's use what we have already created to create a new and better future. Let's do this by building metaphorical bridges to the future. Let's acquire the land and re-educate people who are falling out of the bottom of our societal systems, homeless people, into this philosophy and way of life, and teach them permaculture and create sustainable teaching eco-villages all around the world as hubs of sustainability. And let's begin to grow a sustainable future. And let's do it relatively quickly, keeping what is true and what serves us, and letting go of the rest. Let's build a future upon awareness, consciousness, enlightenment, and a natural sustainable knowledge, skills, and wisdom. Let's become masters of our own thoughts, minds, bodies, and lives, not slaves of an abhorrent paradigm of ignorance. I have spent a lifetime in search of this knowledge, truth, and wisdom, which I teach in my Help Save Our World courses, Beyond the Age of Ignorance, The Quest for the Truth. Soon I will be selecting a small group of people to go on my pilot mastermind beta or beta course creation program. In it, I will present concepts once a week on Zoom, or send a video or webinar out to the group. They will be faced with new concepts, insights, and given the knowledge, skills, and wisdom, which, if they choose to accept and practice in their everyday lives, will change and eventually transform their lives. This is to empower them to transition from where they are now to where they need to be. It is a journey of change, a journey of awakening, a journey towards awareness of what's happening in the world, a journey of consciously connecting and enhancing your consciousness, a journey back to the natural wisdom that humanity has forgotten. It is a journey to enlightenment, true enlightenment, and life's mastery. It is a journey back to your true nature, a journey back to you. We must remember, it has taken thousands of years to create this paradigm of ignorance. But we have one generation left to bring humanity back from the edge of extinction into alignment with the flow of life and nature. Or we'll suffer more and more on the way to extinction, which will not take long because, like Easter Island and its population, we are killing the natural systems which sustain our lives at an accelerating rate from which there is no return. These people who I choose to be part of this pilot program will become insightful, inspired, thought leaders of the future. They will be open-minded, thinking, well-informed, wise guides to future generations of people, with a clear vision of what is possible, and a clear plan how to get there, and how to avoid ours and their demise. This group will have the advantage of being able to question me, get answers, and contribute their opinions to expanding our insights and wisdom together. To go back to answering your question, we do not have another choice. Either we do what is necessary to survive, or we become the slow-boiled frogs that did not jump, ignorant to the end, victims of our own stupidity, complacency, and lack of desire to do something different, without a clue that we caused our own demise by not trying. Yes, we can lay blame, and to some degree we are correct in doing so. We can claim to be the victims of other people's behavior, or we can choose to be responsible adults of our time and do something about it, change the way we think and live our lives, and we change the world we manifest around us, change the way we raise our children, and we change the world in a few generations. Change the way we educate and raise our children, and we change our world in a matter of a few generations. That's all for now, John. I think I've given you some food for thought. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me. Maybe we can organize a Zoom meeting to discuss some things further, but hopefully this is food for thought. Thanks. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.